All right, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum, shalom. Welcome, 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 everyone. We are back and we are live, and our topic tonight is the limits of being Captain Human for Black America. When we're talking about being Captain Human, we're challenging the idea that Black people must always be the moral saviors of humanity, quote unquote, Captain Human, while our own people suffer. And so a lot of people say, well, I'm not wearing the cape for this group, or I'm not wearing the cape for that group. Or we seem to be finding ourselves in these situations too often. And we're going to be looking at it to see, is it advantageous, or is it something that is actually hurting and robbing us? We want to welcome Twin Pyramid to the program. Peace and blessings, Twin. We definitely are glad you're here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. So, Doc, you want to give your first thoughts on Black people wearing a cape for all these other people?
Yeah, I've always adhered to the idea that charity starts at home. And so you need to make sure home is taken care of first. And it's up to us to, in many ways, determine what that home is. For some people, it's purely racial. For me, it's a combination of race and class, to be honest with you. But race is always there. I've learned through experience, through study, through observation and participation, that people of our same socioeconomic status, and I consider myself working class, and I'll be working class my entire life. I don't necessarily see people who are working class being so willing to form alliances to support other working class people, especially when you factor in the idea of whiteness. Whiteness seems to blur the vision of working class white folks. So as a result of that, I have to make my own decisions. And I would love to work towards what socialists and communists refer to as a workers' paradise. But until white folk get their mind together, there's no way that we can do that, not wholeheartedly, because they've not proven to be very trustworthy in regards to their decision making. I mean, just look at what we've seen with these last couple presidential elections. They're voting against their own interest. And if they're going to vote against their own interest, one has to ask themselves, what has trumped their minds? And in many ways, it's the idea of whiteness. And so that's why I have a problem with a lot of Black folk who come up and they act as if they are historically illiterate and don't understand what has happened before us, that we've had quote unquote white allies. But when the opportunity came, the moment came for them to capitalize upon something that was in their best interest, each and every time they've broken that alliance and done what was best for them and theirs in regards to what they considered them and theirs, which is always whiteness first.
Excellent, excellent. And why do you think we don't, as Black people, we don't understand that?
There's something to be said for Black folk almost being idolaters and not holding white folk in particular to the same standards that they would hold their own people. Far too many of our people want to be liked and loved by white folk by any means necessary, even if it includes them abandoning any semblance of a Black agenda that would benefit them and their people. They want to be loved. They want to be accepted. They want to be the generation and the people to say that we've trumped race. But the problem with that is quite simply that the racial problem that you're trying to trump is not emanating from Black America. We're not the ones that are handling the hiring, the firing, the admissions at colleges and things like that. It's them. So it's the onus is upon them to strike a significant blow to racism, prejudice, discrimination, whatever you want to term it. I just don't see anyone even having hammers in their hand, let alone being really willing to strike a blow for racial equality.
Definitely, I agree with that. We're going to go to a video on the website Manhood, Race, and Culture and watch the part of the video and then allow you to critique it. All right, let's see.
It's something that has been, tonight I thought that we would do a response video again, and we're going to be responding to a brother who, if KRS-One of Boogie Down Productions fame were around to see this brother, he would refer to him as being Captain Human. He's one of these brothers who believes that there's only one race, and that is the human race. And that's all that should matter. It's a great fanciful idea, but in many ways it is not workable here in a nation that has been built upon what we all who have any understanding of societies understand is a socially constructed racial classification. And so what we'll do is we will look at his video and we will deconstruct it piece by piece. So here's the video. We'll just let it play and then we'll go back and take it apart.
Dear white people, you are not racist just because someone says you are. There's a theory going out there that there's this race of people that are causing all the problems in the US, and that is just not true. It's a blatant lie, and it's created to put races against each other. Well, I'm going to debunk something. There are not multiple races of humans. There's one race, the human race. I'm part of that race, you're part of that race, we're all part of that race, and we're a big family. And there are some black people like myself, there are lots of us that don't believe white people are the problem. There is individual responsibility. I want to be judged by the content of my character and not the color of my skin. So I'm going to do the same thing for you. I'm going to judge you by the content of your character and not by the color of your skin. If you agree with this, you're part of the human race. And welcome to the family.
Okay. Once again, I wanted to let it play through.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and stop. We heard it, and we'll let Doc take it apart.
You know, the thing is, the troubling thing is that if you don't agree with him, you're no longer human. Let's start there. You know, the brother actually says that there's only one race, the human race. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole as far as genetics and origins and things like that. But the truth of the matter is quite simply, let's take his argument that there is only one race, the human race. But let's also deal with the idea that the idea of race that we deal with in this nation is by and large socially constructed. And just because it's socially constructed does not mean that it is not the reality that has some real serious consequences to those who choose to adhere to it and those who choose to ignore it. So in many ways, the idea that Black folk are, and this is sort of an insinuation that he makes in his statement, that Black folk are foolish and lazy and haphazard and can't get things together. If only they would behave better, if only they would do things a different way, then they could be equal with other groups. Nothing could be further from the truth. Because quite simply, what you're dealing with are the consequences of a structural system. Let's be very honest about that this isn't based upon behavior. Many of the things that you're seeing coming out the presidential administration, many of the people who have been appointed to positions, these individuals didn't earn those positions. A system put them in there, and they were put in there for a reason, to serve a role. So there are many benefits to the idea of whiteness, and black folk by and large, and this brother falls into this category, are seeking to have their comeuppance based upon their being beneficial to white supremacy, to white tyrannical rule. It's one of the number one most foolish things that one could do. And at this exact same time, it's also one of the most selfish things that one could do. That you're quite simply saying, just give me a couple crumbs off of that table and I'll be a good boy, massa. Versus the idea of standing up as a man. And when you're talking about the idea of standing up as a man, let's be very clear on what I am talking about. It is quite simply the urge and the need, and you're talking about humanity, to stand up for equality of all men. And there's only one path that you can really do, you can really reach that with, and that is a path of truth. And in many ways, people who are trying to whitewash or deny the past of this nation, those individuals are doing a grave disservice to the nation. Because quite simply, what you're asking us to do is to ignore years of economic exploitation, of political tyranny, and say, let's just start right now. Well, it's kind of difficult to start right now when one group has had one section of one group has had such a head start and is starting off at million, if not billionaire status, whereas the rest of us, meaning working class and poor folk, are left out here of our own devices trying to make it. And one of the byproducts of poor and working class people trying to make it is that they will battle each other for those crumbs on the table and never set their sights higher and deal with the individuals who are eating full plates of food sitting at those tables. And I yield, brother.
Doc, as part of that, on Black people, a failure for them to look at reality as it is, and versus to want to see it in a way that makes it more palatable, more easier to be Black in a white man's quote unquote world.
Well, what I would say to that is quite simply, let's go down that road of, let's say Black folk did study the history and were able to synthesize it and apply it to their lives. What difference would that make? Because you're still battling a system. You're still trying to play a collective team game individually. And that is one of our biggest downfalls, that we seem to not understand that it takes institutions to battle other institutions. One man standing out there, ironically, I mentioned KRS-One in that video snippet that you showed. He has this great album, Beat Down Productions has this great album called Edutainment. If you never heard it, you should listen to it. It is absolutely incredible. But one of these snippets, one of the inserts that he uses is Stokely Carmichael, Brother Kwame Ture, talking about Valley Forge, George Washington and Valley Forge. And he says, listen, if you take George Washington and put him in the middle of Valley Forge, surrounded by the British by himself, he can do nothing. But if you surround George Washington with like-minded people who think the way he does, who have the same goals and the same, desires that he has, then he could be considered mighty. And that, he extends that to Dr. King. He extends it to John F. Kennedy. He talks about a host of very notable historical figures that if left alone, they can do nothing, but collectively they can do anything. So the problem that we have, though, as African Americans is we're not the ones who are creating, dictating, talking about the narrative, because the narrative is so important to how you look at the world. The narrative of America is a very interesting one. It is quite simply that you had these guys who refused, the founding fathers who refused to be exploited by Britain.
Mm-hmm.
And they were led by a gentleman by the name of George Washington, who is America's first president. He's the greatest American to ever live, and this and that. And you're going to have Thomas Jefferson. That's a hell of a narrative to get people to understand. But flip that narrative and look at the founding of America from the lens of the British. Here you have a group of individuals that were over there eating each other, would have perished if we didn't help them. And to show you how much we helped them, the gentleman that they are talking about as being the greatest American to ever live is actually the greatest traitor to ever live, George Washington. Because we educated George Washington and we taught him military science. And he turned around and used that against us. Now, if American school children are raised to hear the British version, they'll look at this nation totally different. Okay, even Thomas Jefferson. We could talk about all men are created equal in this great document that he produced, but let's trust that with the fact that Thomas Jefferson was a slaveholder, had children with Sally Hemings, a slave woman, and regardless of what you think about sexual dynamics and power and what have you, there is a very good argument that could be made that Thomas Jefferson was raping Sally Hemings because she could not decline or deny his advances. So it's a different narrative. And if that's your jumping off point, you're going to look at this nation through a whole different lens than it being the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Mm-hmm.
You look at it totally. And so when you look at the narrative, the dominant narrative for Black folk, the first problem that you're going to have to deal with is we don't know our story, our history. That's a big part of it. A secondary part of that is quite simply, if you do know some aspects of it, it's being taught to you by those who have historically oppressed you. And that's going to color the way you look at the world. Totally. So Black folk, by and large, are behind the 8 ball, regardless of which way they turn. Those of us who actually study the narrative, we don't have others to build with because they're in so many different camps and have so many different ideas. And some of those ideas are non-existent. Let's be very clear. Our people, the one thing that I can say that our people have done that is as shocking and reminds one of what some Jews have done, it is deny their Holocaust. We actually have Black folk who deny the transatlantic slave trade.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if you deny the transatlantic slave trade, what can we do with you? There's nothing we can do with you. We can't build anything with you. You're literally useless to us. And I'm not even going down that rabbit hole of Ivan Van Sertima. They came before Columbus. I'm talking about individuals who deny. We have individuals who will tell you that Thomas Jefferson was Black, that George Washington was Black.
Exactly.
What are we doing? The Dave Chappelle racial trade thing? We're gonna draft Thomas Jefferson and they get Malcolm X and Louis Farrakhan because that's what it's adding up to. So the absence of historical knowledge, the absence of studying, of understanding, and I'm not talking about a patchwork study where you just study things that go with your perspective and what you want to advance. No, read everything. Once you read the final pages, then make your intelligent, informed decision.
Definitely. Doc, it's funny that you asked that because I was told that today and had to shoot that foolishness down. But I was listening to a white guy and he was saying, and I said, well, good, I'm going to give that to Doc, let him deal with that. And he was saying that we confuse our victimhood with being morally superior to white folks.
Mhm.
And he said that we wear our suffering like a badge of honor, thinking God loves us because we let people abuse us. And he said that is our new religion. How would you reply to that?
To which part of it? Because there was about 4 questions in there.
Yeah, well, you can just take it bit by bit.
Now, you know I ain't good at bit by bit,
Oh,
so
okay.
give me
So
the first bit.
yeah, so the first bit is that we confuse our victimhood with being morally superior than white folks.
I don't, you know, I don't know. I don't know if we confuse those things. Um, I don't think without question that we're more empathetic and we are a moral people. That's just who we are. Now, the idea of victimhood is something totally different. I
Mhm.
believe that there are those of us who do embrace the idea of victimhood, of being martyrs for a larger purpose. And I think that within that discussion, within those words that you shared, is a almost a implication that many of us, and I would agree with this, that many of us have made this choice that Tupac Amaru Shakur said it this way. He said, "We're living in hell. We're just afraid to admit it." And there's a lot that could be said for that. But I think that coming out of the black, especially the recent black church tradition, we have in many ways conceded our earthly existence, our human existence while we are alive, so to speak, for a place in heaven. So we will allow white folk to rule on earth and we'll enjoy our crowns and life in heaven. I think that's displeasing to God
Mm.
because the righteous have to win. If the righteous don't win, then the whole idea of an omnipotent, omnipresent God is in many ways invalidated. Ironically, what many of these people are hanging their hats on is in the end, we win. Well, to go ahead and win, you're going to need to fight. You're going to need to battle. You're going to have to go ahead and confront that enemy on this terrain, on this earth. Failure to do that is making you a coward because you're not willing to challenge them, not in any area. You can see the battlefield in every area, and you find others who are as cowardly as you, and you guys reinforce each other's cowardice.
Mm. Wow. Definitely, definitely. And then he talks about it seems like we wear our suffering like a badge of honor, thinking God loves us more because we let people abuse us,
Mhm.
and that is our new religion.
Yeah, in many ways, I would agree with some of that. That Black folk have over the last 100 years wearing their oppression almost like a scarlet letter. And what's closely associated with them wearing it that way is quite simply the dumbing down, the lessening of expectations for them. Because you really can't expect for us to do anything because we really just are a bunch of little old poor niggas. You can't, master, have some mercy on us instead of standing up as righteous, God fearing men and women. The idea of being God fearing should be so significant within you that you refuse, you shudder and you quake in your boots to violate God, to commit a sin. And that sin that you're making is quite simply being so long suffering without doing anything about it. Because if you truly are God's people, if God be for you, who can be against you?
Mm.
But we don't think like that too often. And that's not even dealing with the idea of the silliness of what Black folk do. how we learn how to waste tremendous amounts of time. But is it our new religion? I wouldn't call it a religion. I would call it an escape route from responsibility of what you are supposed to be doing on a daily basis.
You know, my thing with that, Doc, though, I look at it, and of course, the first thing come to my mind is you wouldn't have said that to a so-called Jew.
Wouldn't have said what?
That you wear your suffering like a badge. You wouldn't say that to them because they damn sure do. They gonna
Yeah,
let you
but
know.
but
We was
they're
burned in ovens and this, that, and the other thing.
but you're not in their minds. You're not of the same quality, worth, or status as them. So the rules are different for you, and that's just what it comes down to. They're able to do things, and let's be very clear that they have weaponized their suffering.
And
And
that's what we should be doing.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, I've said for years, stop hating on Jews. Don't hate, emulate, because in many ways, what they've done is a very genius thing. They have run a propaganda campaign on you. Think about it this way. Columbus discovered the quote unquote New World, and I will use their historical narrative to discuss this. And he sailed, that silly song, he sailed the ocean blue in 1492.
Mhm.
Well, that's going to open up the Western Hemisphere, and what they need are workers. So we know that the transatlantic slave trade, you can call it transatlantic slave trade, you can call it the Arab, Jewish, whatever you want to call it, the transportation, the forced transportation of persons of African descent across the Atlantic Ocean to the North, South, Central, and Caribbean areas, America and Caribbean areas. Now, in saying that, and we know that those are historical facts, 1492, slave trade doesn't end until 1860s, 1850s. Okay, so we're talking about 350 years.
Mhm.
When's the outbreak of World War One? I mean, World War Two. We're talking about 1935, 1936. When does it end? 1945. That's a decade. 10 years versus 350 years of suffering and killing and what have you. You have to be a marketing wizard to convince the world that 10 years of suffering exceeds that of three and a half centuries of suffering. But they've done it. And as you know, I was a fellow at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, and their story is persuasive. And I'll tell you the truth, you leave up out of there emotional, undoubtedly, in an emotional tizzy. Okay. We don't do that. And one needs to look no further than the fact that when a Black topic were to come up in a K through 12 classroom, Black kids put their heads down. They become sheepish. They don't want to be the representative of the race. Why y'all looking at me? Because y'all talking about Black folk? We try to distance. So in every way, you're correct that they have found a way to utilize their suffering, their 10 years of suffering, to come up to the point where you're afraid to even address anything dealing with them because you don't want to be labeled as anti-Semitic. And that is a label that once that's affixed to you, Black folk ain't gonna even deal with you. Black folk are quicker to dismiss you from employment for disrespecting other groups than Black folk. Period.
Exactly. Definitely. I want to go back to, and I want to welcome Earth Angel remix to the program. Peace and blessings, Queen. We're glad you're here. And with the aspect that this has become our new religion. How
Mhm.
so is that? How do you? 'Cause I don't see that. How do you see that?
Oh, I see it very clearly. You have to remember and trace back the black theology, and there is a black theology that is taught in by many of these. To utilize the terminology, someone said this in a church sermon once, huckabucking. Those huckabucking preachers. You know, and see, just by saying huckabuck, you know exactly who and what it is that I'm talking about. The huckabuckers.
Hmm.
There was a moment where the only thing that black folk had to look forward to was death,
Mm,
going home to Jesus. Okay.
mm,
That was in the goal of black life was to die, make it to heaven, and have Jesus come up to you and say, good job, my good and loyal servant. Job well done. That never left us. You may have had some who diverted off and did prosperity preaching, but said,
mhm.
no, 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 it ain't about dying and living a good life. It's about how many material things that you can accumulate in your life. Those are the two primary strains that you saw within the black church for so long. The brothers who were hermeneutically sophisticated and savvy, who were actually preaching a liberation theology, like Albert Cleage, like Malcolm,
Hmm.
like Martin, were pushed to the side and in many ways ignored because they're not emotional enough, they're not theatrical enough.
So I think I'm kind of still like I'm still lost on that point about
Mhm.
it. And I don't know, maybe religion is a bad name.
Mhm.
Um, but
Yeah,
I'm
see, religion takes our minds directly to a direct connection with God.
right,
So
right.
religion is not, that's not the appropriate categorization of what it is that he's talking about.
Okay.
What I think that he's talking about is political priorities and values. That's what he's talking about. That your political priorities, your values, the things that you're going to in every way come out and pursue, those things are tied into you being long suffering, you being a good person, that you get some value, some worth out of being long suffering. You know, I think about as I'm talking about this, I'm thinking about Fannie Jones, my grandfather's second wife.
Hmm.
We called her Granny Fannie. Granny Fannie ran a she was the custodian at O'Neill's. It was either Lazarus or O'Neill's, a department store. That's what she did for a living, period. However, she got her self-esteem and importance from Greater St. John's Church of God in Christ. That's where she was somebody. She was one of the mothers of the church there. So when you're talking about the idea of religion versus an idea of priorities and worldview and things like that, religion is something that is much more weighty, much more powerful, that it's in many ways a covenant with God that you're making. So the idea of you wearing your suffering is not your new religion.
Hmm.
It's something that you carry almost to elicit sympathy from other people. Yet at the exact same time, when you're talking about eliciting sympathy from other people, we can't jump over the fact that you could very well be religionless. You could not have any relationship to God. And that's where I think a lot of people are. They really don't have a relationship with God. They're going to do what benefits them most, um, in the most immediate here on the face of planet Earth.
Definitely. And we want to take this moment to time out to welcome Brother Forecast. Peace and blessings, big bro. We're always glad you're here. And also Big Brother Willie Rivers. Peace and blessings, Brother Willie. We are glad you're here.
Yes.
I wanted to go back and Earth Angel, she says, when your potential is of nature, it's materialism. There's nothing new under the sun. I'm not 1000% of understanding where she's coming with that. So if Earth Angel, if you can add a little more detail to that, and Doc will be able to give some input on it. And the forecast says you can see the difference between Kelly Rowland and Kelly Clarkson. How can you not see there are differences and we are difference, if you call it race or not? And Earth Angel says, this is why Black people won't stand up. Cowardness or materialism. It is what you think? You think is cowardice or materialism, or is it both?
I believe that the grasp and the gravitation towards materialism is a form of cowardice. That what you've done is you've looked and you sort of surveyed the what they're going to give you, put those things at the top of your list, and those things are always going to be little tangible trinkets, a Chanel bracelet, this, that, some type of purse that has some white person or the white company's name written on the outside of it. So the idea of standing up or staying up is one that's going to continue to be challenged because people are not standing for anything that is worth anything. You're not drawing a line in the sand in regards to anything that is substantial. And to be honest with you, and this is to their defense, they are so devoid of an understanding of the world that they don't know what even matters. What they consider to be something that matters is going out and purchasing something that is rusting, or some piece of fabric that as soon as you put it in a washer or dryer is going to be warped. But that's what life becomes, because that's what is realistic and accessible to these people.
Wow. We're going to look at these two clips of Botham Jean and go back in time and come back and talk about it. Because his forgiveness and wanting to give his brother's killer a hug and all of that foolishness really ticked Black people off, the wrong way. So let's go and play this.
I don't want to say twice or for the 100th time what you've or how much you've taken from us. I think you know that. But I hope you go to God with all the guilt, all the bad things you may have done in the past. Each and every one of us may have done something that we're not supposed to do. If you truly are sorry, I know I can speak for myself. I forgive you. And I know if you go to God and ask Him, He will forgive you. And I don't think anyone could say it. Again, I'm speaking for myself, not even behalf of my family. But I love you just like anyone else. And I'm not gonna say I hope you rot and die just like my brother did, but I personally want the best for you. And I wasn't gonna ever say this in front of my family or anyone, but I don't even want you to go to jail. I want the best for you. Because I know that's exactly what both of them would want you to do. And the best would be give your life to Christ. I'm not gonna say anything else. I think giving your life to Christ would be the best thing that both of them would want you to do. Again, I love you as a person. And I don't wish anything bad on you. I don't know if this is possible, but can I give her a hug, please? Please?
Yes. Thank you very much.
We got one more video.
The Dallas Police Department announced this week that it will conduct an internal investigation into police behavior. Evidence presented in the trial of former officer Amber Geiger showed her joking about the assassination of Martin Luther King and discriminatory comments about black officers. Meanwhile, the country is still talking and debating about the forgiveness that the victim's brother showed to Geiger, who was sentenced for shooting and killing Botham Jean in his apartment. And reporter Heather Sells joins us now with more. Heather, what's the debate? Break it down for us.
Yeah, so people are talking about forgiveness and what all this means, whether or not the forgiveness that the brother showed was in fact a good idea.
In court this week, Brant Jean told his brother's killer that he forgives her. He told her that she needs Christ. And then he asked the judge if he could hug her. That became a moment that quickly spread on social media and got people talking. Podcaster Tyler Burns warned, "We often magnify these gestures because we desire neat, tidy endings." Author and speaker Brian Loritz also warned, celebrating black forgiveness without condemning systemic injustice is to weaponize our forgiveness as an excuse to entrench systemic injustice. On Good Morning America, Brant Jean said he chose forgiveness as a part of his path to healing.
This is what you have to do to set yourself free. You know, I didn't really plan on living the rest of my life, you know, hating this woman. I know that there's something called peace of mind, and that's the type of stuff you need to do to have peace of mind.
Demas Salaberios, one of the producers of a documentary on the Charleston church shooting, said Brant Jean was courageous to forgive.
Some people look at forgiveness as weakness, but forgiveness in the heart of this type of situation takes more strength. Forgiveness whether, Amber ever, shows remorse or anything, that really doesn't have much to do with the heart of the brother Brant displaying love, displaying a Christ-like character, displaying a longing for the person's soul. So I know, that doesn't fit neatly in the pocket of the culture of today, but Christianity often doesn't.
Mark Salaberry also said that there's a lot of highs and lows on the forgiveness journey, and he just encouraged CBN viewers to pray for Brant Jean.
Yeah, definitely, I would say. So he has a very positive view of what happened, unlike some, correct?
Yeah, I don't think that he's denying that our country needs to grapple with racial injustice, but he's also saying, hey, this brother was really focused on salvation for the police officer, and he's commending him for focusing on that.
Okay. All right, Heather, thanks for that report.
To me, extreme foolishness. But what do you say, Doc?
That he didn't love his brother.
No, he sure didn't.
And there's no way that you can talk about you loved your brother if you're that eager, not just willing, but eager to forgive the person who ended his life. There's either something wrong with me or something wrong with him. I can tell you honestly, for me, our people constantly talk about getting something honest, meaning, well, you got it honest from because one of his parents is like that. Well, the idea of unforgiveness and seeking retribution, I get that from both sides of my family. There is no way, no circumstances whatsoever, unless we are concocting a plan to make sure you leave from the face of this earth, that you will ever see us forgiving someone who did something like that. This is, once again, yet another example of some Negro who believes that his arms are too short to box with white God. He's eager to get out of their way. And in many ways, if he could rewrite history, he'd probably say, why did he go home at that time? He shouldn't even been there. If he hadn't skipped out on work, he would have been there, and none of this would have happened. This good white woman would be allowed to go home and be with her family.
Exactly.
It's cowardice. There's no other explanation to it. That you have let yourself get into a situation where you can't even speak your truth. You're that afraid of them. That's a problem. That is a Negro right there who is so devoid of any courage or honor that he can't be trusted. Not at any time. He can't be trusted. What could you trust him with? I wouldn't trust that Negro to go give me a bucket of fried chicken. Okay? If he got over there at the chicken shack and they said, what you want, dark or white meat, he'd be scared to say dark. That's a problem.
Big problem.
And he should be ashamed of himself, but he doesn't have enough sense to be ashamed of himself. And the couching of this idea and this, let's call it what it is, this weakness, where we have allowed for in the Christian church, Black Christians in particular are guilty of this. They have allowed cowardice to double as being something that would be honoring of God in Jesus. These are the type of people who would have turned against Christ because he went up into the temple and turned tables over and said, look at what you've done in my Father's house. They would say, what do you do that for? That's cowardice. That's not Christ-like. That has nothing to do with God. That has nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with any faith-based system. What that is a scared boy who might as well said, white folk, look at this. Don't come and kill me.
Mhm.
because that's what it amounts to. It solved nothing.
Mhm.
It didn't even remove any stress off of his back. Despicable.
Very, 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 very. When I first saw it, I could not believe what the hell I was listening to, and
Excuse me.
and then the judge allow the shit, and then she gonna go give the trick a goddamn Bible, and what the fuck? And another black girl who's working for the sheriff office come over there and fix her hair and all this bush. Like, what the fuck is? What are y'all doing up here? What are you doing? You know, it really sickening.
Cooning. That's what they're doing, and that's the thing that makes it so difficult to do this type of work. Is Stokely Carmichael was wrong when he said that all the scared niggas is dead.
Mm.
He was totally wrong.
Mm.
Because I would argue that not only are they not all dead, but they're fertile, producing people like them, other scared Negroes, around the clock apparently. There's nothing you can do with people like that.
No.
Nothing whatsoever.
No, and even with the our people that was killed in Mother Emanuel's church, when they were having the first hearing with that idiot, and I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive. Like, goddamn, are y'all fucking serious? And then the judge talking some. We have to feel sympathy for him and his family because they're going through stuff too. What? What? Please.
Stockholm syndrome. That's what it is. It's Stockholm syndrome. You ain't got enough sense to stand up for yourself. Exactly. These are the type of people. Who was the boy? The boy from, what was that show, Empire? Jesse Smollett. These are the type of Negroes that'll put a noose around their own neck and walk around hoping they come across a Klansman to hang them up so they can show how valorous and suffering they were. Come on.
Did he even ever say why he did that dumb shit? What was the fuck? What was the purpose of that? Why would you do that?
I don't think he ever admitted it was a hoax, number one. But one of the greatest explanations for me of why he did that was that he was trying to get sympathy as a gay man, that they were getting ready to cut his role on the show down or out. And this was his way of almost a preemptive strike of preventing that from happening. That was the best explanation that I heard someone say.
Wow. Crazy. So, Doc, when we look at this superhuman so-called morality, why is it that Captain Human is always somebody black? I ain't never seen no Asian get on TV and do that. I ain't never seen no white man get on TV and do that. It's only us. We're the only ones that do this.
It's in the mind. It's psychological. There's nothing, there's no other explanation for it. This is a psychological dis-ease. This is a mental illness. And the fact that it is so pervasive amongst our people does not make it any less of a mental health crisis. Let's be fair. It's very hard and very difficult to be Black in America. The majority of our people break under that pressure. There is no other logical explanation for why they act the way that they act. They are functionally insane. There's no other explanation for it. How else can you explain the way they behave, the way they act, the way they talk, besides being just insane? And the thing that one of the things that gets me is, had that police officer been Black, they would have probably jumped over that little fence thing and whooped her ass.
Exactly.
But it is in many
Exactly.
ways a desperate desire for white approval that causes them to behave this way. And I'm not one of those that believes that white folk are necessarily devils, okay? But I am one that understands that white folk are going to do, as they should do, what is in their own self-interest, as every other group should do. My problem is, how come our people never do that?
Exactly. Exactly. Now, Doc, you also discussed how humanism is a stolen legacy. You referenced this in your MLK post, that it acts as a mental chain preventing us from conducting the necessary war for justice. What did you mean by that?
Well, in many ways, the idea of being the person that takes the high road always, that if the job could be done by you just being neutral and not being super moral, it won't get done. You have to prove your moral superiority to other people. So in many ways, the idea of being Captain Human is one of those we've taken a position that being super moral, super allowing, super forgiving as being a black trait. If it is, it has never worked in our benefit because no one else cares about your morality. No one cares about any of those things. When you're looking at doing business with someone, and I've done business with people who are like this, they're not friendly. They're very clear. You hired me to do a job. I'm here to do this job. And once I do this job, fuck you, pay me, and I'm leaving. Our people, by and large, want to be friends with everybody and not looking at this thing as if it's a business transaction, as if it's transactional. One of the most disgusting things that you'll deal with today is quite simply that black folk, by and large, only become transactional with other black folk. You want to cut deals, you want to be friends with everybody else, but when it comes to black folk, it's strictly business. There is no friendship there. There is no this there. There is no camaraderie there. That's the level of sickness that we're dealing with when we're talking about our people.
Wow. And we want to take this time to welcome Tranquil to the program. Peace and blessings, Tranquil. We're glad you're here with us. There's a cost to everything. There's a cost for being this superhuman, wearing the cape for everybody. There's a cost of cowardice. When we act as this Captain Human, we prioritize the comfort of others versus our own comfort and our own protection. What are some of the other costs that evidently they're not looking at that has to be paid when you do this Captain Humanism type thing?
The guarantee that your children will be exploited and your grandchildren in very much the same way that you've been exploited. Okay. Anyways, the way people are dealing with that definite reality, that inevitability, is quite simply you count yourself in. But you know what? We gonna win the moral Olympics because they wrong and they know that they wrong. But your suffering will continue across several different generations. The cost of being that way. Let's be very clear about this. Garvey talked about this when he talked about having been to Europe, throughout the Caribbean, South America, and North America. He said there are certain things that you can count on, regardless of if you're visiting a country that is capitalist, socialist, or communist. Garvey says black folk will be the poorest. And these are the costs of being the most moral and Captain Human-like. You're going to be the poorest. You're going to own the least amount of quality land. You're going to be the worst educated. You're going to be in the worst health. And you're going to die before any other group. And he's talking about black folk in the Caribbean, black folk in Brazil. He said, wherever you find black folk at, these things are common and these are standard. Those are the wages of being Captain Human, of not putting that mask on yourself first. I mean, think about how silly our people are. Name me an event that happened. Just give me anything that may happen around the globe. Okay, just create something on top of your head.
Plane crash.
Okay, plane crashes. Okay, black folk tomorrow on Facebook will have as their profile photo a plane. They will rally behind that the same way they rallied behind the attack where they took the Jews over to Palestine, and you had all of that. You got that fall. You have fallout from Ukraine. You have fallout from everywhere. Silly-minded, because in many ways you don't even understand what your interests are.
Exactly.
And if you don't understand what your interests are, Lord knows that you don't understand what those people have done to, and they didn't even have to do anything to you. But do they think for 1 second about the transatlantic slave trade? Do they think about the 300 to 400 years of suffering that your people have been? When who's the sister? And I'm ashamed that I can't think. Michelle Alexander. I'm ashamed that I can't think of her name right off the top of my head, because her older sister, Leslie Alexander, was my professor at Ohio State. How many white folk turn their profile picture to the new Jim Crow? How many of them changed their profile to honor Brother Malcolm on his birthday? You don't see that. Only people you see doing that silly ass shit is black folk.
Exactly.
Around here, oh, well, did you hear what they did over in the Ukraine? You can't even pick out where the Ukraine at on a map. Okay, come on. So you don't know what your interests are. You don't know what you should be standing for. So in many ways, you are intellectually and politically unanchored. So the next pop culture thing that comes around, you're going to be on it. You're going to lead the way on that, and going to spend days, if not weeks, expounding upon some shit you don't know nothing about. Because you don't have enough honesty and credibility to say, I don't know nothing about that. There's some stuff you can ask me about. I don't know nothing about that.
Exactly.
Because it ain't got nothing to do with my people. Why am I gonna sit up in here and study something that ain't got no benefit at all to black folk? Not even in a roundabout way. That's foolishness.
Exactly.
And it takes me back to one of my favorite terms: intellectual masturbation. It's mental masturbation. They sit around, they talk about this bullshit, and it ain't gonna add up to nothing. You know, one of my guilty pleasures, and I might, I don't care what people feel about what I'm finna say. Okay, boy, them sovereign citizen people, man, I like them. They break it down, and I'm like, what they order? Do they order that bullshit from like a store or something? I saw tried to pull a book out, but the book wasn't bound right, so papers everywhere. He's talking about, no, I do not contract with this nation. I'm Moroccan. Negro, you can't even point to Morocco. You ain't been on damn Morocco. Why are you Moroccan? You ain't been no. You get one. I know.
Exactly.
I am not driving. I'm traveling.
Exactly.
You think that's gonna get you off? They get show you something. Okay, no. I don't need a driver's license or a license plate. Okay, let's see how this unfolds. So, in many ways, when you begin to talk about the idea of positioning yourself in situations, in groups, and organizations, and thought patterns that render you ridiculous, that's a form of cowardice. Come on to the main playing field and deal with us. Deal with what we dealing with. Okay. And your refusal to do that is cowardice. Because you ain't gonna do nothing. You know you ain't gonna do nothing. Everybody around you know you crazy. Yeah. You got put a fez on top of your head, and now you Moroccan. Right, yeah, okay.
Exactly. We're going to take a music break and play the song for today. And then we're going to come back and get more into the solutions. So let's check out our song for today's program.
Heavy bass line and drums kicking immediately.
We've been auditioning for a role that doesn't exist. For 400 years, we tried to be the moral compass for a broken machine. They told us to take the high road. They told us to be superhuman. But I'm looking at the scoreboard, and we are losing. Another headline drops, another body in the street. Cue the usual suspects to organize the retreat. They want the tears on camera, they want the soulful hymn. They want us pacifying anger when the chances are slim. We rush to the microphone to offer our forgiveness. Before they yellow tape us down, can I get a witness? Performing goodness for an audience that hates the show. Emotional rabble rousing with nowhere to go. We try to teach them ethics, we try to teach them grace, while they redline the map and gentrify the space.
We reached the limits of being Captain Human today. You can't save a world that wants you out of the way. That tattered cape you wear, it ain't bulletproof, son. The save humanity era is officially done. Hang it up in the closet, let the fantasy cease. We don't need their approval, we need our own peace.
Hey, think about the energy you spend at the job site. Code switching your voice just to appear polite. Swallowing your pride so you don't scare the fragile folks. Laughing way too loud at their insensitive jokes. You're being Captain Human in the grocery aisle. Making sure your hands are visible, forcing a smile. The bigger person, the saint, the sacrificial lamb, the moral mule of Uncle Sam. Dr. Jones told you, that's a substitute for strategy. It's circular motion fueling the tragedy.
We reached the limits of being Captain Human today. You can't save a world that wants you out of the way. That tattered cape you wear, it ain't bulletproof, son. The save humanity era is officially done. Hang it up in the closet, let the fantasy cease. We don't need their approval, we need our own peace.
We reached the limits of being Captain Human today. You can't save a world that wants you out of the way. Political maturity is cold, it's hard, it's real. It doesn't care how the opposition feels. It doesn't turn the other cheek to get slapped again. It counts the resources, it dictates where and when. Stop trying to save their soul, that ain't your mission field. It's time to build the sword, it's time to forge the shield. The limit has been reached. Take off the cape. It doesn't fit anymore. Reality is here. Black first, the silence.
All right. Hope everybody enjoyed our musical selection. Was that's a song that was made for us, and it's called "Tattered Capes," a reality check. Tattered Capes, a reality check. Now, this new music that we've been playing comes from Dr. Jones and myself. So, we'll be putting together a CD and putting it out there so that y'all can get it if you like the music and you want to be able to listen to it. But it's really good, and it'll be coming out shortly. So we're going to move on to the next section, which talks about the solution, as Earth Angel asks, what is the solution? So we're looking at political maturity versus emotionalism. Doc, you did a writing on rebel rousing. Captain Human relies on emotionalism, crying, marching, and singing. But we must not rely on crying, marching, and singing. We should be relying on systems and power. Can you break that down for us, please?
Yeah, I mean, nobody cares about you falling out in the middle of the street, screaming and hollering and kicking your feet. Okay, let's be very honest. What we're talking about are real things, real issues, real problems that could have real solutions. And those solutions have nothing to do with you being emotional. If it's one thing that Black folk like to do is, we're gonna fall out in the middle of the street. They didn't kill Sha. Let's go ahead and we're gonna protest and this. Yeah, go out there and protest. They're playing the long game. And when I say they, I'm talking about anybody that's your opponent. Because they know once the emotionalism dies out, then you're going back to your regular life. You're going back to the same problems that you had previously. Politics is nothing, as Fred Hampton said, politics is nothing but war without bloodshed. And war is nothing but politics with bloodshed. We're talking about science. We're talking about how to handle things. You're never going to. I'm in the state of Texas. You're never going to be able to get another governor in there unless you get registered to vote and then go vote. Those are the harsh, undeniable realities of it. You're never going to be able to confront this enemy down at the school board that are banning Black books without getting registered to vote and being politically active and making it happen. It's just never going to happen for you. So the idea and the need to separate the idea of emotionalism with hard work, developing a plan and then executing that plan, that should be common sense. But far too often our people, and this is our people are guilty of this. We love a slick talking Negro. Okay, Omar. Okay, the Umar get up and no, it is no snow bunnies, such and such. It's entertaining, it's funny, it's this and that. But what have you really accomplished beyond getting a couple giggles from some silly-minded Negroes? The problems that we're dealing with are concrete problems, and they have concrete solutions. And there are things that we can do to impact them. Right now, here in Houston, Texas, I think I talked about this place last time, a place called Midtown. Midtown used to be known as Freedman's Town, okay? Because it was a place that was settled and that was made livable by recently emancipated Black folk. Nobody else wanted that swamp land. They took it and they made it do what it do. We've lost Freedman's Town. And how did we lose Freedman's Town? Because we didn't have enough people who were willing to defend it. Period. And now Freedman's Town looks like San Francisco. Used to have a Black restaurant that was down there called This Is It. This Is It is gone. Okay, couldn't make it. Whereas you have all these other restaurants that are down here flourishing in Midtown. So, you're dealing with things that have concrete solutions. But our people, and Khalid Muhammad said this, he said, our people are a rhythmic people. So you have to hit them with information and inspiration. I have no problem with that. But I do have a problem with your commitment to the movement being purely emotional. And the moment
Mm.
that those emotions fade away, you have no idea of what we got going on, what we're facing, and what we need to do. You go back to your old humdrum life. And I yield, brother.
Mm. Excellent, excellent. So you'll find those type of people also in the workforce who trying to be Captain Save.
It's a survival strategy. That's what
Mm.
that is. It's a survival strategy. They are trying to ingratiate themselves so much to those that they understand have the ability to hire and fire that they will cut other folks' throats to make it happen. Now look at the brother, and he rich, Steve Harvey.
Right.
The stories that
Mhm.
came out about him trying to cut Bernie Mac's throat, trying
Mhm.
to get Bernie's roles.
Mhm.
So in many ways, you're out for self. As long as you're out for self, black folk as a collective are not going to be able to get anything done. Period.
Mm. 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 So how do we manage that? Because the person at the job that wants um, that plays the Captain Human role,
Mhm.
they'll take a negative piece and be okay with it. But then a person that wants change, wants fairness, wants equal treatment, will have to battle against the quote unquote Captain Humanism.
Yeah, but it's like anything else. What is the outcome you desire? What is the ultimate goal? If the ultimate goal is for you to secure a paycheck at the end of the week or the end of 2 weeks,
Mhm.
what's the most expeditious way, the most reliable way to make that happen? It's to go along to get along. Okay. Now, if you happen to be the one that is standing on principle and doing the right thing, well, your goal is to get fair treatment then. Problem with that is that these people are never going to give you fair treatment. And before you know it, you're going to be out the door. And those who are willing to do their bidding, those who are willing to go along to get along, and that's regardless of race, those are the ones who are going to survive. Because in many ways they are, and if you look at it from the standpoint of the employer, these are my good employees. These aren't the rabble rousers. And
Mm.
those are the people who are going to be kept around because they are pleasant to be around. They are going to help the bottom line of the business, which is grow and to make money. Whereas you sitting around here trying to start a union within the business, you're gonna be up out of there soon. And then what it comes down to is quite simply ownership. And until black folk are the owners of these things, you're not going to be able to advance a black agenda. And even if some of the owners are black, you still might not be able to advance a black agenda. You got to remember Michael Jordan's great quote when they asked him why he didn't comment upon politics. He's never been political. And Jordan looked at the camera and said, "Well, Republicans buy shoes too."
Mm.
He's angling to sell shoes. That's his goal, and he's found a path and a way to make it happen.
Mm. 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 Wow. So, Doc, on the thought again about the rabble rousing is a poor substitute for political strategy, but playing the devil's advocate is the reason that we stick to marching and emotionalism, because actually political strategy to some would seem to be boring and hard, that we don't want to challenge ourselves to get it done by any
Yeah, but
means
but,
necessary.
but see, I don't think that rabble rousing is a poor political strategy.
Okay.
Rabble rousing alone is a
Mhm.
poor political strategy. But there is a role for the rabble rouser. Just like there was who was it? The British are coming. The British are coming. Um,
Mhm.
the individual who announced that, that's rabble rousing right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That has its role. The idea of being inspirational and hyping people up, that has its role within the political arena. You know, you talked about a moment where the FOI was being talked to. You talked about several of these moments, and you guys were so intense and so ready to go out and kill on the order of kill. That's valid. That's of some use to a movement, but not as the only thing that you have. You got to go ahead and in every way be prepared to battle these people in the streets, in the ballot boxes, at the checkout counter, everywhere that you can imagine. You got to battle.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't look at it as a poor substitute. I look at it as deficient if that's all you got. If all you got is you're gonna show up and you're gonna say a shocking speech and there's nothing after that, you shouldn't have said anything.
Mm. And so what about
we need to have political plans. Go ahead.
what about your girl Crockett down there?
Jasmine Crockett.
Yes.
Okay, what about her?
You think what she's doing is effective? You think it's working? You think it's pushing the pile?
No, I think that it's entertaining. And I think that Black folk are going to gravitate to it, especially Black women, because she seems to be able to present herself as one of those sister girl types.
Mm-hmm.
But in and of itself, it's entertaining. Beyond that, what's beyond that? Okay, hopefully they're going out and getting registered to vote to make sure that sister is not gerrymandered out of her position. So the idea of how she presents herself in public, yeah, it has some usefulness. However, what comes out of that? Because in many ways, what you're talking about is, and this is one of the constructs that you'll find old revolutionaries talking about, the tip of the spear. The tip of the spear is what penetrates the body, but it's not where the power is.
Mm-hmm.
The power is the spear and the person that is ramming it through you. Okay. Otherwise, you just got a slight cut. And so we need to have our people understand that they need to be the spear. And the spear is what forces the tip of that whatever it is to pierce through the body and kill that person. Otherwise, what are we doing? We're out here, you know. What did Jasmine Crockett say? Bad bitch, bad butch built body. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's cute. Put that on a shirt, this and that. But at the end of the day, did it change the political paradigms? Not significantly.
You know, Earth Angel says we're talking good versus evil. Satan never sleeps. We must know that the soul/spirit never dies and be willing to fight physically and die for our children. This is how they learn how to fight. So what would we tell a person like Jasmine Crockett, who thinks that what she's doing is what needs to be done, that, you know, she's fighting and she's fighting the good fight and doing a damn good ass job? Well, how would we instruct her that what you're doing is not?
It's not that she's not doing a great job. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there needs to be grassroots people right now who are saying, yo, let's get registered so we can make sure this sister good. Because she can't do it all. What she needs is what Adam Clayton Powell Jr. had, what Charlie Rangel had. You need to have a Black supporting cast that sends you back to Congress year after year after year after year, so your seniority and therefore your power grows. So the job is not going to be on her to get people registered to vote, to get the proper IDs and what have you. It's too much work for one person. This is where your political machine should come into being. And regardless of if you're Democrat or Republican, and let's be honest, we're talking about the Democrats right here. They've done a piss poor job of getting people registered to vote and getting them prepared to vote through education, and also making sure they have the requisite IDs and things like that to be able to cast a vote. That's not on Jasmine Crockett and our political leaders. That's what other people should be doing. This is why I say that Ella Baker is arguably the most important member of the civil rights movement, because she was an organizer. We need organizers who aren't rushing to get up on the stage and deliver a speech. That's part of the problem. Everybody wants to be on the stage. Everybody wants to be famous. What about winning? You know, I could ask you, I don't know, last time the Rams won the Super Bowl, who was the center in the guards? See, nobody would know. But is their role essential to the operation of the team? Yes. And that's what we need to be focused upon. So I wouldn't say that Jasmine Crockett is necessarily doing anything wrong or negative or what have you. But I do have enough sense to understand that she can't stand alone any more than George Washington could stand alone in the middle of Valley Forge against the British.
But Doc, you put that, it sounds like you're putting that at the foot of the Democratic Party to get that thing done.
No, I'm putting it at the foot of Black folk.
But they're not even politically, they're not politically educated.
So we need to get them educated then.
And
That's the solution. They need to be politically astute enough to be able, because we're not trying to, and this is one of the old Panther sayings. I'm not trying to teach you what to think. I want to teach you how to think. They need to be politically astute and savvy enough to understand what's in their best interest. Because who knows, maybe the Democratic Party is not in their best interest. Maybe they need to sit an election out to prove a point. But all of that comes from having some knowledge in political science, having some solidarity.
Very, very interesting. Do you think that, because I think that we have a part of our problem is that as a group of people, our people are too loyal to the Democratic Party. And one thing that I see often, where a Black person will be jumping on the Democrats, well, they was behind slavery, they were like everything was just Democrats and no Republicans approved it, no Republicans voted for it, right? And so they play this silly game, when in actuality, both parties did it. Both parties were in on it. But they'll play it like it's just one party that really did the do.
But the question that I would have, and the issue I would have about with your question, you called it loyalty to the Democratic Party. I wouldn't refer to it as loyalty. I would call it absent any other alternative. Because there's one thing that Black folk, by and large, are never going to be able to stomach or get around. And it is quite simply sitting in a room or under a political umbrella where Strom Thurmond and Bull Connor were at. Our people we at least have more sense than these Cubans and these Hispanic people who voted for Trump. At least we know we're able to almost intuitively say, "Oh no, well, hell no, they ain't for us. So why we gonna go over there and deal with them?" So if I'm going to cast a vote, I'm going to cast a vote here. And keep in mind, when you're talking about it, just consider like the election of Barack Hussein Obama. The truth of the matter is that Black folks showed up to vote for Obama almost solely because of race. And while they're there, cast a vote for other Democrats coming down ticket. Is that the optimal political position to be in? Certainly not. But is it something? Yeah, it's something. If there's something that's good or bad, that's something we can talk about.
But don't you think that in this day and time, and all the money that these rich entertainers and thought provokers have, that they should come up with the understanding, well, fuck it, maybe we just need our own party, because they're and I say they're loyal to the Democratic. Donna Brazile, she was caught cheating when Clinton was running against your boy Bernie Sanders, giving Clinton the answers to the damn questions, or giving her the questions that they're going to ask.
Bill or Hillary.
Yeah, give it to Hillary. And she got caught up in that. And you know, and I used to look at Donna Brazile and, you know, see her here and there making her points and standing strong. But when I saw that shit, I'm like, God damn. You ain't got the goddamn sense that God gave a raccoon to tell you not to do that shit because your ass gonna get caught.
Well, I mean, the question becomes, once again, what is the ultimate goal? And for someone like Donna Brazile, well, I respect her mind and what have you, but for someone like Donna Brazile, it is not the liberation and salvation of the Black nation. It's not. It's in many ways the idea of how do I stay relevant? How do I stay afloat? And the best way to do that is to put your money on the winning horse. And it's very clear who the Democratic Party wanted to win. They didn't want Bernie. They wanted Hillary. And so she's in many ways just an extension of that movement. Period.
Wow. And then we have situations where, you know, corporate America, not necessarily have to say corporate America, but, you know, these white institutions and white jobs only deal with Black folks from a position of usury. Want to get all I can get out of them and get rid of them and get me another one in that I can get all what I can get out of them.
They're capitalists.
And it seems as if that this loyalty to them is greater than even the loyalty for their own souls, their own desires. It's like they forget, what's that line in Fences where Troy tells his son, you shouldn't give a damn about who likes you or not. Mr. Rand don't give me my money on Friday because he liked me. Mr. Rand give me my money on Friday because he owed me.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to stop worrying about somebody liking you and make sure they keep their responsibility to you.
They do right by you.
Right. And I think this is the area where we as a people have failed and continue to fail because their responsibility is not being kept towards us.
Yeah, but let's be clear about this.
Mm-hmm.
What is their responsibility to you? And the responsibility to you is almost non-existent. You know, they may owe you because you came and worked for them this week, but the responsibility of means that they have some things that they have to do for you. I don't think that that's how business works in America. They don't have responsibility to me, you, or anybody else. You can be let go at a moment's notice, and let go. And the frightening thing for many people now is not only can you be let go, but you ain't even got to be replaced. They may leave that position unfilled.
Mm.
So when you're talking about our relationship as a community, as a race to the Democratic Party, I just always beg the question of what's your alternative?
Creating your own. That's our alternative. Creating our own. We need to create our own political party and walk away from the Democratic Party because it has not served our needs. It has not served us in the best manner. Walk away from it and create your own and stand on business. Period, point blank. Don't sell out the aspirations of our people because you want to be invited to the White House. You want to be invited to the governor's mansion. No, to hell with that.
Eh, but you're speaking out of a lens of someone who is a nationalist. These people are not nationalists. These people are aspiring Americans. They're pursuing an opportunity to be let in.
There will be no let in. I mean, what was the report on the Negro family told you that. The report on the commission on riots told you that. Once black people get to 40 million, if they're not equal, if they're not consumed in the society, there will never be no equality. There will never be no justice. That shit just is not going to happen.
Yeah,
They
but
already show that America does not have a special will for black people to let things be even, to let things be just and right.
if a
It's
if a
non-existent.
if a tree falls in the woods and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a sound?
Yes, it still makes a sound.
Okay. If Daniel Patrick Moynihan's report on the black family were released and you didn't read it, does it have any influence whatsoever upon your life?
No, I mean, because the realities of what it says in the report about the equality and the fair treatment, I can see that every day. I didn't need to read the report to know what they said. So I use the report as evidence that what I'm saying is actual facts, and it was known.
But what I'm saying is, what about the droves of people, the vast majority of people who they don't even know the name Daniel Patrick Moynihan?
No, they may not
What
know.
are
They
we,
may
what are
not know
we,
his
what are we
name,
to do with them?
but they should know the realities in which they live, which there is no justice, there is no equality, there is no we all just Americans and we all making it happen. Da, da, da. Bullshit. That does not exist. That does not exist. So they should know that by looking at their own lives today.
No. Because see, I think that what you're talking about is actually highbrow thinking. When you say that they should know that, you'd be shocked at how much people don't know, how much they don't observe. Malcolm said it this way. He said, "Oh, okay. Well, listen. What I want you to do when you get home today, what I want you to do is I want you to go out into the middle of your street. I want you to look up your block and back down your block on both sides of the street and see everybody catching it. Because I don't want you to think that you're just some hard luck case." So in saying that, so many of our people, they get caught up within their own minuscule echo chamber, and that becomes all of reality. They're not thinking about anything larger than that. And quite possibly one of the greatest indicators that black women were doing that very thing was how shocked they were when Kamala didn't win.
Mm,
Anybody that wasn't in one of their echo chambers could have told them, "No, y'all ain't gonna win.
mm,
Ain't gonna happen."
mhm.
Did you hear what these people are saying? No, you didn't hear what they were saying because you don't go out and talk to people. You don't entertain other ideas and listen to what people are saying. I often ask people, "When's the last time you watched Fox News?"
Mhm.
"No, I don't watch that," and blah blah. You should, because it'll give you a terrain of of what these people are actually being fed into them and why they act and think the way that they do.
Definitely, definitely. I would agree with that 1,000%. Now, we often talk about stolen legacy regarding history and science. What about the stolen legacy of self-preservation? Every other group, the Jews, the Irish, the Asians, they practice an eye for an eye politically and economically. Why is it that the Black man, the only creature on earth expected to practice the theology of weakness?
Where's the question there?
Why is it that we are expected to practice the theology of weakness?
I don't think that anybody expects you to practice the theology of weakness. I believe that other groups are so busy practicing the theology of strength, they're not paying attention to you. Why would they think about you? Why would they consider you? Because you're no threat to them. So they're out there advancing their own agenda. What ends up happening is that you look at it and you say, well, they must be working against us. No, they're not working against you, not out of a conscious thought of we gotta put these Black folk down. They're advancing their own political agenda, and what they're going to utilize, what they're going to do is they're going to take that increase in their political currency and they're going to use it to further bolster their position and their interest. They're not afraid of you. They're not even concerned about you.
I don't think that to be true, because if they wasn't concerned, then AIPAC would never have said that our enemy is Black youth. I think that they are definitely concerned. I think that
no, but see, I think that what you just said strengthens my argument, because they are in every way making moves once again to bolster themselves. So they have identified what could be a threat to their position, and they're taking proactive measures to make sure that can never happen.
Right. So
they're still operating out of their own interest about what's beneficial to them, and what's beneficial to them is suppressing any challenges that they would have.
Right. And doing that, they have to consider us. So they are thinking about us, and their thoughts are, how
I'm
can
not saying that they're not considering you. I'm not going to say they're not considering you. What I am saying is quite simply that they're aware of you. Okay. But what's in their best interest? And what's in their best interest is to keep you from rallying against them. It's political strategy. It's sports strategy. You figure out what the other team does the best, or what they could potentially do, and you go ahead and you sort of mute that.
Because I really believe that everybody, I think the Asians, the Arabs, everybody, they look and they see and measure how far they can do whatever they need to be done on Black folks.
No, see, I'm not doubting that. I think that what we're saying is the same thing from a different angle. Okay, they're aware of what your potential and your power is, but what they're doing is advancing their own agenda, and a part of that advancing their own agenda is decimating any opportunity that you may have to undercut or challenge what it is that they're doing.
Yeah, so then they are considering us. So I guess I was just
I would say that
lost when you said they're not.
They're considering you from a standpoint of, how do we further advance our agenda, which is in many ways, it's not necessarily taking away from them. Okay. It's advancing them. They're doing their due diligence. They're doing their research. What are some of the things that they could potentially do? And now let's go ahead and sort of cut off any of those avenues for them to be able to do something against us. Okay. Are they aware of the potential power that Black folk hold? Yes. You'll never get me to deny that. They are aware of the potential power that Black folk have. Okay. But they're going to do everything in their power to keep it from being organized. We're in many ways kind of like, remember the old cartoon Voltron? How
Yeah.
Voltron would come together and he would fight. They're preventing
Mhm.
Voltron from coming together. And that's what I'm talking about is in their best interest. They're so busy preventing Voltron from coming together because it benefits them.
Definitely. So how do we stop Captain Human? Few things that I came up with. One is to stop apologizing for being Black. Stop trying to deny the existence of us as Black people, as you alluded to with the guy in the video that we opened with him saying, you know, there's only one race, there's the human race, and you know, white folks, y'all ain't did nothing wrong. Y'all not the bad people on the planet as they say you are.
About made me cry.
So, you know, that I think that is a very, very big thing. Stop apologizing for being Black and let that be, you know, your pride.
Yeah,
that
but
you
Ken,
pride into being Black, into being the first.
is that a reasonable expectation when you consider that the people who are pouring into our people are the very people who benefit from us apologizing?
That is a problem, but it is something that we have to do. We have to do that. We
How do you
have
reach
to
that,
have a
brother?
positive outlook on who we are, and you know, because if you're looking down and looking at Blackness as, you know, a quote unquote curse, you know, or something that, you know, I came here as an accident, or, you know, whatever. You got to look at being Black with pride. You got to have some pride in who you are.
But where does that come from?
Your family should be installing that into you.
But
Your
what if
family, your environment should
but
be.
what if they don't? And one of the problems I have with how Black folk engage the American educational system is this: we have allowed teachers to be gods when it comes to developing the minds of our children. And if you're counting on them to instill an idea of racial identity, let alone black pride, you're in trouble.
Now, explain to the people why we're in trouble if that is allowed to happen.
I mean, you wonder why your kids end up hating you by the time they finish the K through 12 educational experience. Look at the teachers. If the teacher hated you, the teacher loathed you, if the teacher didn't think you were anything, what do you think your child's going to ultimately end up having as their identity, as their belief about you? It's going to be the exact same thing. Period. There's no other way to even reasonably discuss that. People learn through observation and participation. And when you're constantly having people inundate your children with, well, the reason that you're poor is because your people didn't work hard enough. Before long, anybody with a sense of self-efficacy, of self-pride is going to come out and is going to say, well, I'm going to be different. Which is in many ways them saying, well, yeah, I agree that those who came before me, they didn't work hard enough. They weren't smart enough, but I'm going to break that generational curse and I'm going to make it. Well, this is a person who is already displaying some tendencies of believing that Black folk are inferior.
You know, for us to understand as a people our importance, and if we continue to take a course of non-engagement And I'll give you an example, like Eric Gardner. Now, we all remember when he was killed by the police. And his wife, when she did her first press conference, she was, I don't want no apology. I don't accept no apology. Da, 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 da. She was very strong, very forthright. Then your boy, Al Sharpton, got next to her and bring her on Meet the Press, which is seen all around the world. And he's sitting right to the right of her. And now she's saying he's a deadbeat. He was out there selling Lucy's. He couldn't get a job. He couldn't keep a job. And just berated her husband. And, the camera pointed to him and he looking like, looking around. And not one time did he say, you shouldn't say that. So he convinced her to step away from being rah, 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 and now slander your husband, kill your husband image all over again around the world. That it's easier to let's just work the system and get along to go along so that you can get some type of bag instead of you trying to seek as much justice as you can.
Well, I mean, that's when you're within a capitalist nation and you're dealing with people who are so economically impoverished and also intellectually impoverished. What's life about? Life is about securing some financial resources. And now the question becomes, are you willing to do it by any means necessary? Because if you're not, you're missing the boat. Al Sharpton arrives to come in and to explain to her what the game is. What you need to do is start getting some sympathy. You need to go ahead and take white folks' side in regards to this. And maybe they'll slide you a little something at the end of it.
Definitely. I think that if we could strip away the desire by our people to be accepted by white America, this would make Captain Human die instantly. We are playing this role because we are trying to prove we are human to people who will never see us as human. It's pure insanity. It reminds me of the white slave owner who said, we saw Black people not as humans, but as pets. We have to think for them.
Yeah.
We have to do everything for them because they can't do it for themselves. And that idea still carries. And, we need, I'm not going to say it's a radical reshaping of our mind, but we definitely see the operation on the mind of Black people.
Certainly. I mean, you used the right word, a radical. You're talking about not a 360 change. You're talking about a 540. Black folk need to be twirled and turned around several times because in many ways they have lost their minds. They have lost their way. There's no other way to look at it. So as long as you're not in control of the intellectual diet, and by intellectual diet, I'm talking about the books you read, the magazines that you encounter, now the things on the internet that you encounter. Because how do you know what you know or what you think you know? It's from what you've read. It's from what you watched. It's from what you've seen. And when those images are damaging to the Black psyche, and oftentimes you don't even know that they're damaging to the Black psyche, you're in trouble. Think about some of the comedy things that we watch on TV. Think about the comedians that we have historically found funny. Think about some of the pop culture icons that we've gone about and we found pleasure in. Come on. How many of them have made their mark as a result of shitting on Black folk? Come on, let's be honest. One of my favorite shows, and it's one of the things that for me is sort of an interesting experiment. Watching television that I watched as a 10, 11, 12-year-old child, maybe even a teenager, and now watching it with all that I've learned and all of that, watching it, just go back and watch it. Man, come on now. You can't tell me Norman Lear wasn't making fun of black folk in Sanford and Son. Was Red Fox hilarious? Certainly. Was he a comedic genius? Certainly. However, were they making fun of us? Yes. Go back and look at In Living Color, the Homeboy. They're making fun of black folk. And it is in many ways self-defecating, self-depreciating comedy upon black folk. That's what it is. But that's, and we find that to be not only to be funny and appetizing, we run to it, especially in the 1980s, 90s, and 2000s, because there were so few of us who were on TV. I remember when they used to put a counter up on MTV, and it was a countdown. In 17 minutes and 59 seconds, we're going to play Michael Jackson's Billie Jean or Michael Jackson's Thriller. And you would have to, you waited because you were just so happy to see some Negroes on TV.
Exactly. They in the church, they always say the same: my people perish for the lack of knowledge. But they never finish the verse where it talks about, because you have rejected knowledge, I will reject you. And, I always ask myself, well, why y'all don't talk about that part? Why you don't teach about that part? That, God is going to reject you if you remain willfully ignorant. This is a decision that you're making. And I think a big part of that, if the church or the pastor, whoever, start giving it as it ought to be given and letting the people know, hey, look, God will hold you responsible for your rejecting knowledge, because it's not cool to be ignorant. Say, oh, what you don't know ain't gonna hurt you. Bullshit, it will hurt you. It's hurting you every day.
Yeah, but the thing is that you're talking about an abrupt alteration and change from that old time religion that people have gotten so used to. You're talking about running away your members, brother. Who's gonna put that money in their collection plate? You get up there talking about all that radical talk. Come on. Come on. The people are not ready to hear that, even though it's what they need to hear.
I think that if we don't seize the day and make them hear, I don't care if we gotta force it in their ears, but they have to be made to hear and understand that this is the real deal. Because at the end of the day, the preachers, they just using them to keep their paychecks going, to keep their money
Don't
going.
you be talking about my pastor like that. And you know that's the answer that you're gonna get. All he got to do is get up there and say, "Yeah, you got all these false prophets that's coming around here that's saying," and they're gonna fall right in line. We talk about the cultish nature of MAGA. Some black churches got a cultish tinge to them as well, and their souls are not being fed, their spirits are not being catered to, or what have you. But one thing that they have is a sense of inclusion into this group of individuals, and they will fight, rob, steal, and kill to protect it.
Definitely, I definitely agree, and them days need to be over. I really believe that we have to do each and everything that we have to do to make them understand and accept the knowledge that this Captain Humanism has to die, and you have to accept your own and be yourself. We have to accept our own and be ourselves. It's just no way around that. There's no real way around that. You know, every day, Doc, we see the death of America. Every day. We got drugs coming into America, and I'm not talking about street drugs. I'm talking about drugs that you go to the pharmacy and you get with your legitimate prescription. Drugs coming into this country that never been tested, don't know where this shit actually came from.
Yeah.
I mean, the things that used to be standardized in the protection of the quote unquote American way or the American people, that shit gone, right? It is gone, sincerely. Now, when you even think about how is America going to proceed, go forward after Donald Trump? Which one of these jackasses are going to get into quote unquote office and try to steer America where? Where are you going to go? Who the hell are you going to get? And so there's a big question mark, because just to be honest, even these so-called ones that you have today that's supposed to be in these positions of power, you listen to the foolishness that come out their mouth, they don't know the head from the ass. And so America is in a real pickle. And so that means that black people are in a worse pickle.
Yeah. Wasn't it Ross Perot that said that when America gets a cold, black folk get pneumonia?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, we things have to be done, and they have to be done, you know, in the best manner to push that information out and make our people realize this shit can't go on. Now, and I'm gonna say this, and we're gonna go ahead and move to closing comments. But what I learned today, Doc, because I've been catching up on this Stockton massacre that had happened.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that there were Filipinos and Asians, Bloods and Crips. I just thought Bloods and Crips were black people.
Mm-mm.
But it's not. It's these Asians and these Filipinos. They're taking up being blood because they're the ones that went in there and shot up the damn party.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't black people that did that. It was them that did this. And to learn that these motherfuckers are calling themselves the Bloods and Crips just really amazed me, because I didn't think that no Asians, no Filipinos would be out there doing the Crip sign and all this bullshit. But it's there too. It's there too. So, you know, we definitely have to be able to see this thing as it is and move our people in the way that they have to be moved. We're going to go ahead to closing comments, Doc.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, what in your closing comments, can you also talk about what has to be done that this Captain Humanism idea is removed from the psyche of black minds, and to understand that actually the way I look at it, the enemy is using our humanity against us and using that for pushing us in a manner that will be against our own lives.
Yeah, you know, the good book says, as a man thinketh, so is he. So it is imperative that you need to be able to control and dictate the thoughts of your people, because as they think of, that's who they are. And we have so few of our people who are black-minded. The vast majority of them are what I term white-minded. because their political priorities, their primary purpose on this earth is not predicated upon uplifting Black folk. It's predicated upon the idea of ensuring that the nation is going to be okay in the short term and the long term. So pouring into our children, Winston Churchill said this. He said, the greatest investment that any people could ever make is in books and bottles. And he's talking about education and babies. Black America needs to take a page out of that and understand that we need some babies and we need education. We need to be pouring into our kids things that would uplift Black America. Failure to do that needs to be looked at as if it's child abuse, without a doubt. So I close with the idea of just being happy to be here, man. Just really happy to be here, man. I need to be here, regardless of what other people may think. I get much more out of this in being here with my people than you could ever imagine. I go out into the world and I battle and I write in solitude, so to be able to come up and to be around our people is a blessing beyond measure. And I thank you all for being here. Love you all.
Definitely love you too, Doc. Earth Angel says, Doc, your students give you a good run today. I'm proud of myself. You better have your lessons airtight next week.
let me say this. I am in finals week. Started last week. I ain't got to go back to class again until the day after Martin Luther King Day. I am on break. I'm on break for the next 6-7 weeks. So I'm chilling.
Definitely. And so I just want to say thank everybody for joining us. Thank you all for coming. Please like, share, and subscribe if you have not. As we say always, you kill the nigger in you, I'm going to kill the nigger in me, and our God will reign supreme. We are Black first, today, tomorrow, and forever. Love you, family. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom.
Peace.
So you better get the message and get it straight. You're going to need some bridge work. It's simple.